Welcome to New York Got Game.
What's up, everybody? Dexter Henry here alongside Bryan Fonseca. Another edition of New York Got Game. And what we're going to do this week is we're going to talk about all the players on the Knicks rosters, at least the ones that are signed right now, all the players, and we're going to talk about what is the one thing, the most important thing that player needs to do to improve next season, the one improvement they need to make for next season. Everybody can always improve. Don't tell me there's a perfect player out there. I don't want to hear that. Don't tell me Jalen Brunson is perfect. Nobody's perfect. We can always improve. We can always get better. So we're going to try to come up with those improvements. Now, how we're going to do this is we're going to do this a little bit draft style, right? So I'll make a pick, and we're going to decide who goes first of a player we're going to talk about. Then Bryan will make his pick, and we're going to flip-flop back and forth. So to determine who goes first, we've got our producer Nikolai in the room. And Nikolai, I think he's done this before. I think he's got this under control, and hopefully he doesn't get mad and do some GTA-style stuff on me, which he likes to do. But Nikolai's going to pick joke. That's another talk for another day. Yeah. But Nikolai is going to pick a number between 1 and 5, and we're going to guess that number. So, Nikolai, do you have your number between 1 and 5? He's saying yes, that he does. All right, Bryan, I'm going to let you pick first. What number are you going with?
4.
Nikolai shook his head and said no. I'm going to go with 3. Nikolai also shook his head and says no. So now it is on to you.
5.
He picked 5. Great. There you go.
Can I choose for you to go first? Because you have a more interesting first name than I do.
Nah, go first.
Okay, fine.
Listen, you go first. You got the pick. Don't
because I don't want to start at the top. I feel like most people, like, we will talk about Jalen Brunson. We will talk about Karl-Anthony Towns. It's obvious.
Let me also say this: we have sort of big boarded this, right?
Yeah.
Where how we're going and who we select is who we think, by picking this player, their improvement will have the greatest impact on the 2025-2026 New York Knicks. So we kind of have our players in mind ranked. Mine might not be the same as Bryan. We may value somebody higher, but I think that whoever we're choosing first or second, whatever, this is the player we're thinking, hey, their improvement that we're talking about, the thing we think they need to improve the most, will have the biggest impact on this Knicks roster going forward. So, okay, you got the first pick. Who you going with?
I'd like to start with Deuce McBride.
Ooh.
Let's go there first.
Ooh.
Because we talk about the young players, and I think he counts. He's going to be 25 in September, so he'll be 25 this entire season. And Deuce McBride's development is very important for this team. So for me, it's shot making. You could say shot creation, but as well, like, from an offensive perspective, I think that's sort of the next level for me. We've proven we can be a 3-and-D guy, proven that you can defend on the perimeter, you can make three-pointers, play off of other guys. I think now it's about actually creating your own shot. It's about getting the ball, putting it on the floor, being effective with it, hitting shots in the mid-range area as well, getting to the basket, which is going to be, I think, important. And also because I feel like a lot of the guys we're talking about, while they can improve, and we'll talk about that, but they're closer to fully formed products, if not being fully formed products right now, than the Deuce McBride is. If we're talking about this team making a leap in terms of potential, and Deuce McBride, this is going to be his 3rd season with real minutes, probably, even though this is going to be his 5th NBA season, his 3rd season with real minutes. You know, in looking at some of the numbers from last year, the shooting actually dropped. The win shares per 48 dropped. Like, some of the advanced metrics dropped, even though he was in a lot of the Knicks' most impactful lineups. And I think with Deuce McBride, being able to be impactful again, but make more of these shots and then show some on-the-ball juice from an offensive standpoint, I think that could really, especially if he starts, by the way, because that's a thing that
still possible,
some fans think that's sneaky thing. I think he can. I think he's good enough to, obviously, and I think it makes a lot of sense. But he has to show more on-the-ball juice and be able to get back to where he was from a shooting perspective 2 years ago.
So I'll just say this quickly. I like the pick for Deuce McBride. I do think, and we'll get to this, I think, at more points throughout this offseason, but he could be one of the more impactful players for the Knicks this season. I do think his level of importance is high, so I do like this pick. When I had him down here, he was up there for me, and I also had some of the same reasons you had, right? Doing more with the ball in his hands. Can he create more? In terms of his scoring, could he get to the paint? Can he maybe add something? I think that happens for a lot of times for him is when he does step inside the three-point line, he's pulling up for that 17 to 18-footer. But if he can get a little bit deeper and he can add a floater to his game, doing that off the dribble, I think that's also something that could be really dope for him moving forward. So, like, I like what you're saying with Deuce McBride. I do think he's important.
He's a big swing piece this year.
I agree. I think he's a big swing piece, and he's been developing nicely. You talked about last year, and the numbers went down a little bit for him in terms of shooting, and he was dealing with the hamstring injury that kind of kept coming up, and I think that stopped him from being
that hurt his numbers a little bit.
Yeah, so if he's healthy, I think he could be all right and could be that kind of swing guy. All right, so my pick, I'm going to go for my first pick. So Deuce McBride is off the board. Okay, Knicks fans, I'm going to go with somebody who a lot of you out there were killing last season. And he just signed an extension, 4 years, $150 million. Yep, I'm talking about Mikal Bridges.
I wonder if we have the same thing for this.
Mikal Bridges, it's really simple for me. The defense improved throughout last season. They obviously had 2 great plays in the playoffs, games 1 and games 2 against Boston, those game-sealing plays. But for me with Mikal Bridges is you got to improve by getting to the line.
Yes, same
thing. Absolutely.
Same thing.
Have to get to the line. It is absolutely critical. We know he can be that secondary ball handler, and I think he could do some good things with the ball in his hands. But we know this, people. If you've watched the Knicks last season, he's always avoiding contact. If he gets deep into the paint, he's going to fade away. He's not attacking the basket. He has not been getting to the line. Bryan would bring this up constantly when we did our weekly live show last year. His career high in free throw attempts per game was 6.6. That was back in the 2022-2023 season with the Nets. Last year, his free throw attempt to field goal attempt ratio was 28%. 28%, people. Taking a lot of shots from the field, doesn't get to the line. When you want to be an efficient scorer in the NBA, what do you have to do? You got to get to the line. He can't avoid contact, and I think that has to be the focus. If he wants to help this team, you got to get easier points, right? We could talk all we want about Mike Brown's system and all this stuff, but the points have to be easier, Bryan. And the points for him were a little bit, and this is a word I'm going to use a lot with a lot of Knick players, laborious. And when you're not getting to the line, that's a problem. So number one thing for me with Mikal Bridges, you got to start attacking the cup, stop fading away, get some damn free throws.
I have a couple of numbers on this because I had the exact same thing as you would imagine. 52 shooting fouls drawn all last season.
That's crazy.
He had 127 the year before. He had 159 the year before that. I think it's the second lowest mark of his career. And the other year was one of the only years he actually missed a bunch of games. He missed like 9 or 10. It was with the Phoenix Suns. It was like a second season. 2 free throw attempts per 100 possessions, the lowest of his career. And also his free throw rate, so kind of a similar stat from what you outlined there, .100. One of the worst in the NBA, especially for someone who has a high usage. His free throw attempt rate was worse than some of the following players: Dante DiVincenzo, Dorian Finney-Smith, Haywood Highsmith, Seth Curry, Deuce McBride, Cam Payne, TJ McConnell, and Tobias Harris. All got to the line more frequently in terms of, relative to their field goal attempts and relative to just their offense in general. Like the driving, not getting to the rim, not getting free throws, especially when he's a pretty good free throw shooter, that's something that has to get better. 52 shooting fouls all season for an Ironman who doesn't miss games.
And plays heavy minutes. Right. Yeah, it just can't. It can't happen. All right, so we were on the same page with that one. Yes, he's ranked very highly for me. I think how Mikal Bridges performs and how he improves his game this offseason, if he can improve that, that can do wonders for this Knicks team down the road. It's going to do wonders for them offensively. He just has to be better on that end. It's really simple to that. All right, who do you have as your next pick?
Okay, now I think we can go to Jalen Brunson here.
No, okay. Now earlier than I thought you might go.
Yeah, because I was looking at the list and I was like, you know what? Now's a good time to talk about Jalen Brunson. I'm not sure we agree on this one, but this one for me is playmaking.
No, we do.
Okay,
we do. But like, I might have a little caveat to the playmaking, but we do agree on playmaking. I think a lot of people would go defense. But go ahead. But you do your thing.
I do think a lot of people will go defense. So he was actually 15th in assists per 36 minutes for all the relevant players out there. So not bad. But here's where it gets a little bit, and this is where the room for improvement really is. So he's tied for 19th in usage last year in the NBA, 29.5 usage rate, same as Nikola Jokic. He was basically top 20 in the NBA. Of players who was in top 20 in usage, in terms of the assist rate, Trae Young was a lot higher at 46.4. Jokic at 44.1. Tyrese Halliburton, 39.8. James Harden at 36.8.
Those are four of the best passers in the game.
And Halliburton's usage was only at like 21. You know? Jalen Brunson, on the other hand, in terms of his assist percentage, was 32.3. So a lot lower than all of these guys. And in terms of, and for people who don't know, that's an estimate of a percentage of teammates' field goals a player assisted while on the floor. 32.3%. So lower than all those guys I mentioned, significantly lower than Trae Young, Jokic, Halliburton, Harden, which is basically to say for the amount that he has the ball, he can actually make more plays for other guys that he hasn't quite done. Now, you could say it's a Tibbs thing, it's an offense thing, but if we expect Mike Brown to be a little bit more free-flowing, have some juice to the offense, maybe the ball's flying around more, I think this is where the area could improve, because I think Jalen Brunson could be an elite passer, elite playmaker.
I agree.
He was a very good passer even at Villanova, and obviously we've seen it in the NBA at times, but he does kind of put the team on his back a little more than I feel like he needs to. And I think the next level is to be a little bit more of a playmaker, especially because look at the talent on this team. We talked about Deuce McBride potentially making a leap, but even if he doesn't, there's Mikal Bridges, there's OG Anunoby, there's Karl-Anthony Towns, there's a bunch of guys that we're going to talk about. Like, there are a lot of guys here that can score. You know, you have assist percentage that's lower than even Chris Paul, Isaiah Collier, and Josh Giddey, for example. Like, I think there's room for Jalen Brunson to grow as a playmaker this season, and I think it'll help the offense.
I agree with you. I think the thing you are talking about with the playmaking is I'm going to assume, but we don't know, that this should look a little bit different and not be as heliocentric as we saw in Tom Thibodeau's system. But
we think
the thing I had put as a note for me was, I'm with you on the playmaking. What's the playmaking like under pressure? What's it like when the game is tighter? Does he revert back to some of those heliocentric things? And then you're going to see him get trapped. I need him to, when he gets trapped, because it's going to happen, or you're going to make those reads earlier and trust this new system. That's the thing.
And our other guys are going to make plays as well.
Yeah, off of that, right? Because if that doesn't happen, then you're going to start to not trust those guys. And listen, we know how good of a player he is in crunch time. So he's going to see those double teams. Particularly, he's going to get trapped high as he comes across half court. Or teams are going to try to pick him up full court. So you have to make those reads and be willing and able to get the ball out of his hands. I think you're right. Jalen Brunson is a willing passer. We've seen him do this before, but seen a little bit more.
Yeah.
Can he average 7.5 to 8 assists per game? I don't think that's crazy.
8's the number for me.
I think 8's the number he should be. I like that as
the amount he has the ball. I think he can be a 25 and 8 guy.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
In fact, I think the team would be better off if he didn't have to give you 25 a night.
I agree.
You know,
and there's a way in this season with the system that his scoring could go down, and I think that could be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So Jalen Brunson was the third pick here. I've been this one's a little tough for me at 4 in what I have ranked, because there's 2 players I'm going to go with, but I think one is a little more obvious of what people would think. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going with the big man. I'm going with Cat.
Okay.
And I think for a lot of people, they're going to see this and be like, look, Dex, you know what Cat needs to do. He needs to stop making stupid fouls.
Which is literally what I
And you're right. You're 100% right. I am not saying that this is not true. You're 100% right. But there's something else I've thought about with Cat. I've watched him, and I've talked about this in another video in which Cat sometimes, especially Bryan, on offense when he's in isolation situations, he's lumbering to the basket. You and I talked about this sitting right here during watch parties, where it looks, and again, it's a word I'm using, the L word's coming up again, laborious.
Yes.
And sometimes it doesn't look graceful. It doesn't look sleek. And I think with Cat, and look, I'm not body shaming here. Could Cat get a little leaner? We seen Luka Doncic hit the gym and looking good, and we now expect big things. He still got to do it on the court. And you know I love Luka. But can Cat get in better shape than what he is now? Cat's feet are slow. We know this on defense, and it contributes to him making these dumb fouls. But what if he dropped 10? I'm just asking for 10. He plays about at 250. What if he gets down to 240? He's got the height. He's got the amazing shooting touch. What if he gets down a little bit and gets down like 240? Could that help him? So I'm challenging Karl-Anthony Towns. Hey, man, get in the best shape of your life, because we know comes late September, early October, everybody at training camp says, well, I'm in the best shape of my life, especially if they're in a contract year. Everybody's going to say that. But you know what, Kat? Get in the best shape of your life, because if you're in the best shape of your life and you're moving better and hopefully you're not making the dumb fouls, that is going to be huge for the Knicks. How big is it for the Knicks if he's just moving his feet better? That's all we're asking. Just move your feet better, because if the playoffs come around next year and he's making ticky-tack fouls in big-time games, what's your face going to be like, Bryan?
Probably laughing like this, because I'll be like, oh, we're back. We're doing this again. I think it's great, and I actually think a lot of people will agree with this. I think some more aggressively than others will say, I like the way you worded it, in terms of just, do what the boxers do when they go into training camp. Just say, oh, I'm in the best shape of my life, but actually get into the best shape of your life.
Yeah, actually get into the best shape of your life.
I mean, boxing would probably help. I recommend it for sure. I think with Karl-Anthony Towns, it's a great one, and it would also help the defense if he were, to your point, to get into the best shape of his life, because you're able to move your feet, you're able to think a little bit more too. You feel like you're not gonna have to overcompensate because you're tired and you can't really move your feet fast enough, so you reach, and that's how you get a ticky-tack foul. So I think it's a great one. The reason why I had defense briefly is just because every NBA champion for the last 40-plus years, maybe longer, has had a top 11 defense, and the Knicks were short of that last year. The Pacers finished even 13th, the Knicks were 14th. And the only two NBA champions in recent memory who didn't have a top 11 defense and won were the Lakers in 2000, 2001, and the Denver Nuggets in 2023. And what did they have in common? They had the best player in the world. One had Shaq, the other one had Nikola Jokic. So the Knicks do not have that. So I do think, though, if everyone were to get in great shape, you could have a better defense. Like, sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah, sometimes it is that simple. And I kind of agree. Everybody should try to be trying to come in the best shape of their life.
It's a long season.
We'll see. It's a long season. All right, you're up next. Pick number 5.
We're gonna go with Guerschon Yabusele.
Ooh.
So we'll go with one of the new guys here. This one is defense, but not for the reason that a lot of people would assume. The defensive metrics last year in Philly were not great. However, as we texted about earlier today, if you look at the guys he was playing with, like Philly's most played 3-man lineup, 3-man combination, was with Guerschon Yabusele, Tyrese Maxey, and Caleb Martin, who played 42 games together and just 756 minutes. That's their most played 3-man combo. 756 minutes over the course of an 82 game season.
Tells you how injury ravaged they were last season.
Yeah, and how much they just kind of punted, and it got them VJ Edgecombe essentially. But for comparison, remember, 756 minutes was the number. For comparison, the Knicks had 10 3-player combos that played over 1,100 minutes. Now, you could say that's Tibbs and the Knicks were mostly healthy and all these different things, but like as a comparison, the Knicks had a lot of familiarity and chemistry compared to what the Sixers were able to do last year.
Point.
But that's Tom Thibodeau. Let's use a different team. Let's use the Indiana Pacers. They had 7 3-player combinations who played 900 or more minutes together. The Cavs had 5 3-player combinations who had at least 800 minutes together. So he didn't have a lot of time to gel with these guys in Philadelphia. I think defensively, what you worry about, though, because he's not an elite defender, he was obviously better in France than he is, or better in Europe, I should say, than he is right now. But you worry that he's too small for the big guys and too big for the small guys, which means the small guys could get by him a little bit easier, and he's not going to be the anchor because a lot of lineups he's probably going to be playing with Mitchell Robinson, for example, or staggering with Karl-Anthony Towns. So it's really being able to survive. He's strong enough, he's athletic enough, and because he's often going to be with the center, he's probably not going to be the last line of defense very often, especially if that center is Mitchell Robinson. So I think when you look at the defense, he needs to be someone who could survive in a lot of these lineups, because a lot of times, like, you're probably going to be the guy who other guards are going to try to get in space.
Yeah.
They're going to attack him before they attack Mitchell Robinson, for example. And if they're going to attack Cat, then you have to be able to help. So he's going to be in a lot of important lineups, and I think he's a playoff guy. He's a playoff rotation guy. That's why you paid him what you paid him. But Guerschon Yabusele, he just needs to be like fine on defense, like be survivable on defense. Just don't be a net negative on defense.
Yeah, I think the point you make there is just particularly on the perimeter, because that's what I had for him. It was perimeter defense. Like he's got the physicality and he has a lower body strength to be able to bang down low and I think throw his weight around on other guys. But on the perimeter, is he moving his feet? Is he positioning his body in the right places and guards? He cannot be a turnstile. I'm not saying that he is a turnstile. And I think another point you bring up with the lineups in Philly is he also wasn't playing with that many good people. That stuff matters. We talked about that with Tyler Kolek earlier this offseason. That stuff matters. We talked about that on offense, but defensively, that matters a lot too.
Yeah.
So he's playing with more talent here. He'll be sometimes in lineups where there's OG and Mikal on the floor. He'll sometimes playing with Mitch, as you mentioned. That stuff matters, but he can't be caught on switches where he becomes food on the perimeter.
The other thing is he'll be in some lineups with Brunson and Cat.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like you're going to have to, you're going to have to put in some more work.
Yeah, those lines can be scary. Okay, that's a good pick. Yabusele went a little earlier than I thought, but I do think his impact and how he looks off the bench.
He's another swing guy for them. I really think so.
Yeah, so that's 5. Okay. I think you could argue this guy could have been higher. I think a lot of Knicks fans, you will say he is one of the most valuable players on the Knicks, most indispensable players you want to say on the Knicks. Fans were starting to hate a little bit of
polarizing
at
also.
the end of last season. We're talking about Josh Hart.
Yeah.
And
that's a good one.
Josh Hart is a guy, we know what he does. He does everything for the Knicks. He's going to rebound. He's going to defend. Defense slipped a little bit last year. He's going to give you the hustle plays. But Knicks fans, if you're watching, what's the one thing you absolutely need to see with Josh Hart and probably drive you crazy? No, it's not the stupid fouls like Cat. We understand that. Willingness to shoot the three.
Yep.
That is the big improvement for Josh Hart. I can look at the three-point percentage. He shot 33% from downtown last year. The highest three-point percentage he's ever had in his career was in his rookie year with the Lakers when he shot just under 40%, 39%. He's generally been around 34, 35. Yeah. If you can do that and be around league average, we'll take it. I like to call that when you're around league average, that makes a defender put a hand up. Mm-hmm. When you're shooting 33 and only on a little over 3 attempts per game, and you're hesitant to shoot and you pass up a lot of these threes, defenders are not going to respect that. They're not going to put their hand up. When defenders don't even think you're willing to shoot, that is an advantage for the defense. So, 2 things for me. Can he get the attempt rate up to about 5 a game? Right? We're asking for almost 2 more threes a game. The willingness to take it and the confidence in it matters. If you're not going to take it, we saw this last year, he would not be confident. He's passing up shots. I remember one game in particular where Cat yelled at him to take the 3 because he wasn't taking the 3. That has to change. You cannot be hesitant on taking the 3. It is going to hurt this Knicks offense. He's got to be more than just a glue guy offensively. We know what he does with the rebounding, the passing, all that. But if he's not willing to take the 3, that hurts offense. Now, this also matters too in how you play him. Are you playing him with the second unit? Are you starting him again this year? I will say this. I think if he's not willing to shoot the 3, this is where you get the case for starting Deuce McBride or even putting Mitchell Robinson in the starting lineup because you're willing to sack more defense and give yourself another non-shooter, if you want to classify Josh Hart as that. But at least this other non-shooter you're putting with Mitchell Robinson is such an elite defender. You're willing to give up some of that. So for me, look, in a beautiful world, next year Josh Hart is shooting 37% from downtown on 5 attempts per game. Who wouldn't sign for that? I would absolutely sign for it.
That would be game-changing.
That would be game-changing.
Seriously.
Now, asking for a 4% bump is probably a lot.
And 2 more attempts.
2 more attempts. But I think if you can get to about 35 on the 5 attempts, you can live with that, and that would be cool.
His 3-point attempt rate was the second lowest of his career last year.
Yeah,
so it was actually going the other way. At point 327. His shooting percentage from 3, the last 2 seasons with the Knicks, 32%. For his career, he's 34. He's actually been under that the last couple seasons in totality. And I want to echo a point you made, just the hesitation could collapse the offense. Like if you're in the corner, they find you, there's 9 seconds left on the shot clock, and then all of a sudden you get this pass and you hesitate and the defense is able to crowd you. Now you have to find another shooter, and now you're turning the ball over and it's going the other way, or you're getting someone else to force up a contested look because you pass on an open look initially. Like, those little things could really collapse the offense. So I agree. I had shooting for Josh Hart, and I think he's become one of the more polarizing players for the Knicks because of the playoff stretch. We'll see what happens this year. I do think there's a world where, like, you can really argue he's better coming off the bench. Like, he'd be better in a 6-man role, but then Deuce McBride or whoever would be the starter would have to prove that they're better than Josh Hart there. So there's a world where he just enters as a starter, and maybe there's a change along the way. But I agree. Like, the shooting, the volume needs to come up, and the actual percentage needs to improve.
I agree. I 100% agree. All right, so we're through 6. You got next. Pick number 7.
Jordan Clarkson. We're sticking with the new guys here. I think Jordan Clarkson is another guy who is a swing piece. Now, look, if we're really, like, we understand the mandate here, as Stephen Bondi told us, has been depth. Depth is super important for this team.
Yep.
I think that because the depth is super important, like, we're going to have to look at some of these players who are going to come off the bench. And Jordan Clarkson, like, he may get starting opportunities too, just because guys get hurt and what have you. But coming off the bench, he has the most points coming off the bench in the last few years in the NBA. He's going to be super important. But for me, perimeter defense is going to be key here.
I had a feeling you go there.
Perimeter defense. Not because he's an awful defender, although the defense hasn't looked great in Utah necessarily, but also context.
It was Utah.
Look at where he was playing, right?
Look who he's playing with, right?
I'm sure it'll be better when he's playing with OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, definitely Mitchell Robinson, in a 1-5 pick and roll for the other team. But the key here will be he's gonna be a guy that's screened a lot. I think coming off the bench, like opposing guards, like T.J. McConnell, for example, will try to get him in a pick and roll a lot. So will Peyton Pritchard. So will a lot of these guards who are coming off the bench for other teams. I don't know what Norman Powell's role is going to be for the Heat, but he's another guy that could potentially attack Jordan Clarkson. And if you look at maybe the Atlanta Hawks, obviously Trae Young and whatever else they're going to do offensively, I think Atlanta's probably going to be really creative offensively this year around Trae Young. Like, they're going to attack Jordan Clarkson. It's going to be seen as a weak link, especially because you have talented defensive teammates like OG Anunoby, like Mitchell Robinson, like Josh Hart, also, who we just talked about, like Mikal Bridges. So not getting lost on screens will be key. Being able to fight over those screens will be key, especially in lineups where, by the way, he might be with Guerschon Yabusele a lot, and that's going to be a combination that people will, all right, let's try to have your screener come up here so that we can put Clarkson and Yabusele in the action. You know what I mean? Or Clarkson and Towns if they're staggering lineups. Like, there's a lot of different ways I think he's going to be attacked. He has a 6'10" wingspan, Jordan Clarkson, by the way. Little known thing. But he's never been an all-defense type of dude. So I think him, like Guerschon Yabusele, being able to survive on defense is going to be paramount for him, considering the minutes we expect him to get this season.
I had Clarkson down for defense, and I don't have much to add other than say, for me, like, it's a little bit of what you're saying. It's focus. He can't have defensive lapses and has to recognize these situations. So I think he's just got to be locked in and be more engaged as a team defender, because I think what you're talking about is when he plays in Utah and you're playing with not as good talent around you, this is where you can look disengaged and sometimes worse than your talent actually is on defense. So I think he's got to have the defensive focus. That's a good one. All right. For me, with the 8th pick, I'm going to keep it with another big man here. I'm going Mitchell Robinson.
Ooh.
And this ain't that deep, man. Now, you can say health and
sure.
Yeah, we know. Like, he's got to be healthy on the floor. He can't improve that. He can only control what he can control with
more
that.
Foam rolling.
Right.
You know, like
but
more Theragun.
But what Mitchell Robinson can't control, right? If you take away the Theragun and the foam rolling, improve your free throw shooting, sir. This is what you have to do.
Of course.
All we're asking for, and I like, because we got to give a target. You got to give goals. 65% at the line. 70 would be nice, but that's asking for.
Has he been? Hold on, I'm looking.
And I got numbers.
Okay.
Okay. Mitchell Robinson, his career, 52% career free throw shooting.
Not great.
All right.
Not great.
In the playoffs, when this is really when it matters, and we're talking about it, 39%.
Jesus.
That's almost unplayable. And we saw this rear its ugly head through the postseason, right? That can't happen. If Mitchell Robinson wants to legitimately stay on the floor, you can't shoot just under 40% from the free throw line.
Free throw line.
It just can't happen. And look, I understand everybody likes to put out their off-season workout videos, and you know how much I love those. But
no sarcasm, by the way.
sarcasm if you're not watching. But you got to put in the time and better get working your free throws. Shaq, you struggled with free throws. He made it when it counted. You need Mitchell Robinson to do the same. You can't be shooting 39% in the playoffs. It is not a recipe for success. Got to go. Got to be better on that. Simple as that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really should have any pushback on this one. Like it's the one thing. Like you could say, hey, offensively he could add whatever. No, just make free throws.
Yeah, I don't want to see any in the offseason working on threes. Nah, work on free throws. That's all we need. Work on your free throws. I'm again with Mr. Robinson, like I said, it's not even that deep. Don't need to be that long. You can move on to the next pick.
Yeah, we have 2 each to go, I believe.
Yes.
I am going to go with, because now we're in young guy territory, I'm going to take one of them off the board, and this one to me is easy. It's Pacôme Dadiet, because I think, as I said,
I'm really curious as to what you say for him.
Yeah,
very curious.
It's actually a simple thing, because Dadiet didn't play a lot last year, and well, none of them did, because
right. None of the young guys played over 300 minutes.
So
right.
We're not working with a large sample size, except with Pacôme Dadiet. For me, it's shooting. But shooting off the catch specifically.
Okay, so this combines with what I have to say.
It's shooting off the catch specifically because he has played basketball in different leagues. He played in Europe. He played in the G League, played in the NBA. And there's not a league where he has good catch-and-shoot numbers or even shooting numbers, period. But the thing is, before you can let somebody create a three-point shot off the dribble who's not a point guard, you need him to be able to catch and shoot first. And on a team with Jalen Brunson, with Jordan Clarkson, with Mikal Bridges, with Karl-Anthony Towns, with all these guys we're talking about, you're not going to get a lot of opportunities to cook, especially when you're maybe the 10th or 11th man right now. Maybe. So I think catching and shooting is going to be important. Last year in the NBA, he was 6 for 19. That's like roughly 31%. Not great. In France, in his final season, he was 14 of 45. Also not great. Low 30s, I believe, in percentage. G League, he was 29 for 91. Larger sample size, also not great. So we have a sample size, not large sample size, but we have a sample of him just not being able to knock down three-pointers. And I think just that one thing, just shooting a reasonable percentage from a catch-and-shoot perspective can go a long way.
No, it can. I think the thing for me, so I debated between his catch and shooting, but I really came down to him as how, and this kind of goes into this because you have to do this to catch and shoot well. How well does you move without the ball?
Yeah.
Because you saw some of that from him in Summer League where he's moving well without the ball. He was cutting towards the basket and finishing really well. That was impressive. So in this, as you said, he's not going to get a lot of chances to cook. So how you move, the cuts you make, the reads you make, and when you get the ball, can you finish with that? But I do think your point matters because when you can stretch the floor and hit those shots from the outside, that'll be really good. But I think also if he moves well without the ball,
that's a great
and he's able to get easy buckets, he's going to get trusted more because you got guys who are more primary ball handlers than you. He's not going to get those chances to cook, and I think he's got to move well without the ball too. Two things can be true. That's, for me, his biggest improvement, just how he moves off the ball.
Yeah, like he just needs to be a functional role player. And if you're going to get role player skills, like you have to be a role player before you can be a star player. Not that we think he's going to be a star, but you never know. But you have to be able to cut. You have to be able to shoot. You have to play off of the guys who are the primary ball handlers on this team because you're not going to be the A1 option, the number one option. You're not going to even lead the bench unit. That's just not who you're going to be this season.
Nah.
So cut, shoot, make your shots, take them when they're open, and most importantly, perhaps is also defend, but mainly the shooting for me is the key skill that he has to develop this year.
I completely agree. So moving on to my next pick, which is the 10th pick.
Second to last.
It is
for you.
For me. You have one more to go. You just talked about about being able to play off of other guys. And I think a guy he should look to in terms of Pacôme Dadiet, and the guy that I'm going to get to is a guy right on his team, and that's OG Anunoby.
Yeah.
OG Anunoby has made his career playing well off of other people. We know how good he's been at that. He's been a great role player. I think he was a great trade for the Knicks. I love that trade when it was made. And one of the things I think we saw last year, particularly late in the season when Jalen Brunson went out, was we saw a little offensive aggression from OG where we were like, oh, okay, OG got some things in his bag.
Drives, yeah.
We saw some nice drives, some nice finishes. Now, that didn't always translate in the playoffs, and it led to some turnovers, which was not good. But what I want to see from OG Anunoby in terms of the improvement is continue that offensive aggression, but take care of the ball. That's what I want to see. Can you take that next step where you can be trusted? And he showed that in about a month. What was that, a 15, 16-game span that we saw without Jalen Brunson? Might have been 17 games total.
Like that.
But he was assertive. He, especially when defensive shifted attention away from him, he saw spots where he could take over. That's what I want to see. He showed you where it's like, oh, I can be more than just a glue guy. I can be more than just role player plays off guys. He's got something to him, and I think the Knicks can tap into that. But I think it also will be paramount on Mike Brown to run sets for him because he moves well without the ball. OG's an underrated cutter, and I think that if he continues to do that, but also when he gets the ball in his hands, he just can't do too much. Sometimes he gets the ball in his hand, does a little too much, where those leads to turnovers. But if he stays within himself and is aggressive, we've seen how that can look. And I think the improvement for him is picking his spots and having that consistent offensive aggression.
I think that's great because the word has always been he sneakily maybe wanted an offensive role that's like bigger throughout the course of his career.
That's been the word around.
Yeah, that's been rumored even when he was with the Raptors, where it's like, oh, he wants to do more offensively, whatever. Well, I think picking and choosing when to do that is important because there are going to be times where, you're going to need to be option 2. Cat doesn't have it, or Jalen's just, having one of those nights where he's 7 for 21. It doesn't happen often, but like those things can happen. So I do think that's important because you want him to be multi-dimensional offensively, not just being a catch-and-shoot guy. And honestly, the money he's making, you would want him to have more depth to his offensive game. We know what he can do defensively, which is why we didn't really pick him up until this point. I think there are other guys who like have to make meaningful improvements. OG, like at a baseline for what he can give you, is great, but there is more to be said for what he can do offensively. I think I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. We got two more players. If you're following, you know who they are. Brian's got one more pick. I've got one more pick. Who's your last pick?
I'm actually going to go with Tyler Kolek.
Okay.
Even though I'm not very optimistic that he'll see a huge role this season. I think he'll see some, like he'll just have to see some time at some point. It's the NBA. Like if you go look at the basketball references for literally any team. Every single person on a team like gets a shot at some point, it feels like. But with Tyler Kolek, I think a lot of people would say defense. I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to say shooting off the catch, but also shooting off the dribble. So the reason why I don't have shooting off the dribble for Pacôme Dadiet comparatively is because with Tyler Kolek, we actually have a requisite sample size of him being a good shooter. 2 years in college, his last 2 years in college specifically, where he was 39% from 3. We have nothing for Dadiet there, so baby steps. But with Kolek, it's like, okay, you can actually create, you could actually catch and shoot. Maybe he can play off of somebody else, like a Jalen Brunson, for example. Well, you don't want to see too many of those minutes together, I don't think. But maybe a Jordan Clarkson. We'll start there first. But maybe it's something like that, where you're coming off the bench and Jordan Clarkson's going to have the ball more than you. You can catch and shoot there. There's going to be opportunities for you to shoot off the dribble because you're a point guard. We saw in Summer League that he really, really struggled in terms of making a lot of these three-point shots outside of the Nets game where he went 5 for 12. But as you like to point out accurately, the teammates that he played with, like there's probably more assists to be had. I feel like I know what he is as a playmaker. I feel like I know, like I've accepted that I don't think the defense, if it does come around, I don't think it's going to be this year. That would surprise me because it takes a while for guards, and obviously like he's going to be someone who's hunted a lot. I think maybe there's some stereotyping there from other NBA players, but it is what it is. Like that's part of the NBA experience. But I think ultimately, if he can prove that beyond just the playmaking, if he can prove that he can knock down some shots, that he can create some shots, 3-point range, he can be effective, I think that goes a long way for like, okay, maybe there are nights where Mike Brown looks at Tyler Kolek and it's like, okay, you know what? I need this look in my lineup, even though I know defensively it's going to be a challenge, but we can figure out ways to hide him.
Yeah, I think defenses was the obvious answer, but I do like what you went here with his ability or what need to improve off the dribble. I think that could be huge for him if he's able to improve off the dribble. I don't really have much more to add. It's definitely what he needs to add in his bag, and we'll see if he can do it. Yeah. So obviously, last for me, my pick is going to be Ariel Hukporti. I thought Bryan might pick him because Bryan has made the statement before throughout this offseason that Hukporti, you've said, Bryan, that he's got probably the best chance of these 3 Knicks rookies from last season to impact the rotation. But I also understand why you went with Kolek over him, because Kolek probably has more to work on. Ariel Hukporti feels more NBA rotation ready.
Yeah, and it feels like we kind of know what the answer is for Ariel Hukporti.
And the reason I think you probably also feel safe in this is the Knicks have had some recent good history, and I've said this before in terms of developing big men. Mm-hmm. Now, what can Ariel Hukporti get better at? And for me, I think you saw a little bit of this in Summer League. We talked about it when we broke down these 3 guys in Summer League, but I think for him it's offensive pick and roll awareness. So what does that mean? And so that means, how does he improve his timing and positioning when he is setting screens, right? And then being the roll man. We looked at some video recently where he was tremendous as a roll man, where we set some really good screens, and the footwork was great and the positioning was great, and he was able to roll hard to the rim and finish. That's what they're going to be looking for you to do. If you get minutes out there, you're in a 1-5 pick and roll with Jalen Brunson, that's what they're going to be looking to do. But what you can't have happen that will get you off the floor and will get you in the doghouse of Mike Brown is if you're setting moving screens.
Yes.
That is not going to be good. Nobody's trying to see that. And this is why I say awareness, because that is about focus, right? Not rushing your play, not moving your feet, not turning into your man when you're setting the screen. These are things that cannot happen. So for me, it sounds really simple. And, on defense, I think he's got to be able to be physical with guards and get over the screens. But for me, it's really the pick and roll offensive awareness. For me, that's going to be really, really the key, because it's going to unlock easier looks for him. It's going to unlock things for the Knicks offense. And if he comes in, you're feeling good. You could play him with Cat. You could play him, maybe not with Mitch. There's too many non-shooters out there. But you can play him with Cat. And it gives him some more versatility. You can play him with Yabusele, as you mentioned. So, yeah. Hukporti, for me, offensive pick and roll awareness. He gets better at that. I think it does wonders for the Knickerbockers.
I actually had anchoring for him defensively. Yeah, I actually went the other way with that. And the reason is because I feel like the pathway to him becoming a rotation player this year starts with defense. I think the offense is important, because if you're going to have these big man skills, like, you're going to need to screen, you're going to need to roll hard, you're going to need to have your hands up, be ready to catch, all these different things, attack the basket without hesitation when you get the pass in the pick and roll situation, and also, like, go up and not be afraid to get fouled or finish through contact, like these little things. But also, I think defense is going to be essential. Weak side help, strong side help, whatever it is, contesting without fouling, surviving on switches.
That's hard to do as a big coming in.
But here's the thing. If he can be passable defensively, Mike Brown, he might be like, yo, all right, I can play him with Karl-Anthony Towns now. Because Mitchell Robinson's probably not going to play 82 games. And this is really the key. Mitchell Robinson, like, I don't know. I'm not wishing anything, whatever, knock on all the wood, but we don't expect him to play 82 games.
I don't.
It's entirely possible even that he sits back-to-backs. We don't know.
But I don't mean to cut you off, but what I want to say, I think you're right, but the point I'm also making too is, let's say that happens, right? And now you really have to play him. Here's what can't happen. You can't be making these dumb fouls on offense when we already have somebody we know makes dumb fouls on defense as a big man. Now you're in a whole lot of trouble.
I think the reason why I think he has the cleanest pathway to minutes of all the 3 young dudes, between him, Dadiet, and Kolek, even though Dadiet, you could argue, has the highest ceiling, and I think that's a fair argument. But the center rotation, the way it is, if we've already seen Towns with Mitchell Robinson together, and we already know Mitchell Robinson, given the history, is probably not going to play 82 games.
Right.
So, with Ariel Hukporti, can he be good enough to warrant minutes with Karl-Anthony Towns? Because that adds another dimension to your team. Maybe Mitchell Robinson becomes expendable. I don't want to wish that upon him, but, like, the game is the game. We look at his contract; it's very movable. Teams will want him. Like, from a short-term perspective, he can crack the rotation, I think. I think there's a world where he can do it. He has to prove it to be good enough to do it. And from a long-term perspective, hey, can you justify maybe signing him to a similar contract that you gave Deuce McBride, where it's 3 years and, what was it, 11, 12 million or something along those lines? Yeah. That becomes a steal if someone with that kind of money is on your rotation. So I think it's one of the sneaky bigger things, but that's more of a long-term thing. But the baseline of improvement, I think we both know what the better version of him would look like. But I think both things are important. I think you're right about the offense, and I think I've made some valid points about the defense.
No, you did. You definitely did. But this was fun. This comes to the end of this draft where we talk about what everybody on the Knicks roster needs to improve on. What's the one major thing that they need to improve on? I think this was a lot of fun in some of the offensive talk. Now, how many of these things will actually happen if the entire team improved on all the things that we said they need to improve on? Well, the Knicks will likely win the championship.
Right.
But everybody's probably not going to improve.
Doesn't work that way.
But it is fun to still discuss, and it was fun to do this. He's Bryan Fonseca. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time, another edition of New York Got Game.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.